small business impact statement, a draft small business impact statement, signed by Administrator Todd Park and dated March 31st to 2025. Is there any member of the board who has any questions or comments on the draft impact statement?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sort of awkward because the next item is public comment, but before I get to public comment, are there any members of the public who would like to edify the board on their feelings of the draft impact statement? I hear nobody, and I see that nobody is online. So we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. Again, public comment may be made for up to 3 minutes before the board on any topic, hopefully on this topic.
You guys want to bring it up and I'll answer?
Are we debating having a public comment? Are we debating having a comment on the item before this?
Good morning still. Cheryl Gibbons for WHC, Whittlesey and Henderson. During the last workshop, there was discussion about board orders that were from the mid-'80s that required the cab companies to put 18-inch helicopter numbers on the roofs of the vehicles, as well as install a green distress light. The chair had made a comment that he did not believe that that would be enforceable. No one knows where the board orders are, and it is not in an actual reg that says that we're required to equip the vehicles with this. So he made the statement publicly that there was no way that it was enforceable, and in his opinion, the companies were not going to be required to do that. Since it isn't in the regs, it's not something that was addressed here today, but I wanted to have it confirmed by the administrator that indeed moving forward as we equip new vehicles to be placed into service, that we will not be required to have the green distress light or the helicopter numbers.
I would like
Art, you want to address that?
Yes, if I could, please. Obviously, I can't enforce something that's not there. So I don't have an avenue to enforce that. My feelings on it were when the seatbelt laws came out, I didn't want to be told that I had to wear a seatbelt, but I know it's good practice. I also feel the same way about these things. Like, I'm not going to force the industry to put the green lights on or the helicopter numbers. I think it's good practice, but without having a regulation, I'm not going to create a regulation for that, especially if it was a board order back in the 80s.
Okay. Question for our deputy AG. Are past orders of this board precedential?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
If they can be found.
If they can be found, yeah. I mean, that's not exclusive to this agency. Yeah, we're talking something way back.
Is there, so two things, just if you could talk about it. Driver safety is important. Is there a reason the green distress is it not being used? If we don't require it, is there any county ordinance that requires it? That no. Is there an alternative method for a driver to signal that he or she is in distress?
There is, and I probably defer to the industry, but through the DT5, they have availability to get back with their dispatch.
Gotcha. Well, to indicate, do they have a panic button on the DT5? Yes.
Rich Frakes, Mr. Cab Company. Yes, we would leave the panic button in the car. When you push the panic button, the DT5 sends a signal to our dispatcher with a location, GPS location, and an alarm goes off. So then the dispatcher would call the meter because it's a phone, and they can talk to the driver or listen to what's going inside the car. Plus, they can call the police, the taxi cab authority, to send a car to their location. So it's just not going to flash on top of the car. It's going to be more of a signal sent to our dispatch, universal dispatch. So basically almost 70-80% of the taxis.
Does the taxi cab authority, enforcement officers, or Metro have an opinion on whether the green flashing light is helpful in locating and identifying a cab that's in distress?
Yeah, my staff would be in favor of keeping it. Obviously, if you're looking for a cab and there's 10 of them on the same block,
That never happens.
well,
No, it's strip.
yeah. Certainly easier, but I think with new technology as well with GPS, and as we're putting the cab numbers on, we're marking the cabs with the cab numbers, I think we'll be okay. And honestly, I don't know that there's any other agency that would know what that light is.
I'm pretty sure Metro would know.
Maybe. I don't have intimate knowledge about that, but that's been one of the arguments, is that not everybody even knows or understands what that light is.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, quick question.
Go ahead.
Maybe Rich, maybe you or Michelle can help me with this, because I feel the same way in terms of driver safety. What are the drivers saying? Do they feel comfortable? You know what? It's absolutely horrifying when you're watching the news or you're on social media and you see these type of incidents that take place. You know what I mean? Where a driver is attacked or robbed or something real catastrophic happens to that individual. What are they feeling in terms of safety? Is that what you're saying, that you have this button that they could push and it goes to, am I saying this correctly, DT5?
The DT5 is the meter inside.
Is the meter that alerts the dispatcher, correct? Do they feel like that's enough for them?
The green light is only activated when they're pressing that panic button. So, and the green lights have a tendency to go out. It's just one of those things. The drivers know that their best chance is hitting that panic button and then having that communication with dispatch. And if there is no communication, dispatch knows, because they can hear what's going inside the cab. If that driver doesn't respond, that he accidentally hit it and it's not really an emergency, then they're going to send out Metro Highway Patrol, TA, whoever they need, whoever that agency would be that would come to the driver's aid.
To locate the cab number.
Before we let, for the record clear, that was Ms. Gibbons who just gave us that identification. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms.
Good.
Gibbs.
So law enforcement is going to come out and identify the cab by the cab number, whose numbers we've just made smaller.
For the record again, Cheryl Gibbons with WHC. No, Metro would not identify that vehicle based on the helicopter numbers on the roof. The numbers are still on the side of the cab, and we will have that vehicle number and be able via GPS to tell Metro exactly where that cab is.
But those are the numbers I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the helicopter number.
But the vehicle numbers are still on the cabs.
Right.
They're just not the helicopter numbers.
Right, but we've made those vehicle numbers smaller in the rig.
It's never been used in the whole time we've had them, but
The helicopter numbers,
once.
not talking
Excuse me,
about.
Mario.
Oh, for Mario from Deluxe Taxi, but the green light, going back to the green light, technology has changed. When I drove, at the beginning, it was used. When I got carjacked with Metro handing me a crazy guy, between the meter and my phone, that's how we communicate. And that's how state troopers were able to locate me with the car, with the guy in the car. So that green light is outdated and it's a dinosaur.
Okay. Is there anything else on this topic? I guess I have one clarification, but did you want to add something first?
I just want to add something. We educate the drivers when it comes to what the buttons for, the green light, and how the dispatcher communicates with them through the meter to make them feel more comfortable. So I believe that the drivers are comfortable with just using the meter with the GPS. Plus, we have cameras in the car. There's a bunch of other safety factors that we have inside the cab to protect the drivers.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through you to Rich. Rich, I appreciate that. I think for me, just trying to better understand the industry and how you all are moving with today's technology and how we're making that work to make our drivers feel safe. That's number one for me. With us here in Southern Nevada, we're seeing a huge increase in ridership, if you will. Hopefully that's benefiting the industry, opposed to, our other partners out there who are giving rideshare services. But I'm just thinking in terms of when I see a cab, or I've ridden in cabs before, and I'm always wondering, how does this work? You know, I've gone out of state and have ridden in a cab before where they actually have a separation, that little cage thing, which I think is kind of weird because it's kind of like, yeah, that petition, but it's about safety. And I'm just so concerned today with so many folks out there who are living this Darwin's theory in their head of survival by any means necessary. And it's crazy out there. You know, you got folks who are suffering from mental health, and you know, you go after those who you think are the most vulnerable, the ones that you think you could get a quick fix from. And I don't know, I'm just hoping that we are staying ahead of the game and not putting drivers in harm's way. That's it.
And Mark from Deluxe, just for a record, it's such a dinosaur, the green light, that 99.9% is a driver forgetting where his foot is and just setting it off. And they ride and nobody ever pays attention to them. That's how much Metro has lost their way with it and everybody else.
But let me follow up with something else too. So the cameras actually, so there's redundancy with the cameras because the cameras also has GPS. So our system, we can't like see like the video right off the bat, but we can actually look inside the car and go back and look. So we can identify whoever's inside the car after the fact. And we can't follow them real time, but we can actually go look at them. We can actually see where they are. And so there's a redundancy that we have with the GPS and the DT5. So there's two ways for us to locate the driver.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things. The green light is not to videotape a passenger assaulting. The green light is so law enforcement can identify the cab that's in distress. So the alternative method is dispatch getting a panic button call and saying to dispatch, law enforcement dispatch, here's where the cab is. We have it by GPS coordinates. The question is, does that help an officer on the street identify cab if there's 20 of them at a stoplight on the strip? And if the TA officers say they prefer it, I would be curious to know what Metro says. Because it doesn't matter necessarily what you guys want. It matters what the law enforcement officer in the field, if that's going to help them identify a cab in distress, that's what that green light's for. So I'd be curious to know what they think.
And JB, that's what I was saying, as Mark from Deluxe, is that a lot of times they're on the strip, and most metros don't even know what that is.
And if that's what Metro has to say, great.
I mean, if they were
I'd be happy to
trained,
hear that.
in the old days, they were trained for that light. And I'm talking 24 years ago.
So
In today's world, I don't know.
Rich Freight, just to clarify too, sorry for Desert Cat. I was trying to answer his question about the drivers feeling comfortable, not necessarily, I just wanted to say that there was a redundancy, not real necessarily about the thing. So I just wanted to know about that. He was asking me how the drivers felt, so.
And the new cameras I'm putting in, you could directly do it on the second. We can go in and hear the whole conversation as it's happening.
Thank you. I have two questions on this topic. First of all, I mean, we have, between the three of you, most of the cabs in Clark County, but there are other companies. Are you aware? Can you testify that all the other companies have this type of system where you have the two-way and the GPS through
Yes.
your radio and the cameras?
Yes.
Or is it?
Or the
Excuse me.
And Desiree, on behalf of Lucky, Western, and Ellis Cab, we have the same system where the panic button alerts an alarm in dispatch. We have the camera system. It's basically identical.
Thank you. So it is your testimony that the green light on top of the cab is essentially obsolete, and what you have now provides more safety to the driver. That's your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we believe.
And you have no testimony that I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, so we just have a clear record, that putting the cab number on the top of the cab so it could be seen from some sort of aircraft. I haven't heard any testimony on why that's obsolete or not, but you just don't want to do it.
But the Deluxe Taxi, from my knowledge and all the years of the cab industry, it's used.
I just wanted to clarify that that's the statement, because we almost had two topics mixed in, so we have a clear record. I'm not giving you my opinion and all of that, but we have two different topics. one you believe is obsolete and the current system you believe gives more safety, and the other one you believe it just hasn't been used, so you don't want to do it.
Cheryl Gibbons for the record. It's not a requirement within the NACs, which outline all of the requirements of what has to be in and outside of a taxi cab before it is actually approved by the TA to be put on the road. That was one of the things that broached the subject. The second was that the helicopter numbers were put on in the 80s as a way for Metro in a helicopter to be able to see and then direct ground forces to stop a vehicle. All of the cab companies that I'm aware of in Las Vegas now have the ability to kill the engine on a vehicle at any point in time. So once we know where the GPS location is of that vehicle, we can kill that vehicle. You know, we wouldn't, obviously, there was an incident once we received this technology originally where we disabled a vehicle on the freeway. It was my companies that did that. Obviously, law enforcement wasn't really thrilled with us because we were on Interstate 15. But now, obviously, we've learned that if we're going to disable a vehicle, to do it in a safe manner. And so Metro has not ever since been dispatched airily for any vehicle that we've ever had stolen. We tell Metro where it is once we've disabled it, and then they take over the scene.
And again, for clarity of the record, the administrator has testified that our enforcement staff would like to keep a requirement for a green distress light on cabs. And is there any opinion by the enforcement staff, one way or the other, on cab numbers on the roofs? The roofs of the cabs?
Yeah, why don't you come up, JJ? JJ is our one of our vehicle inspector. He's our supervisor, and he's not enforcement, but he goes out and inspects the vehicles.
Okay, please state your name for the record underneath the mic so we got the record, please.
Yeah, my name is John Justice. I work with Tax Cab Authority Vehicle Inspector. I can give you back history on all of this.
Okay.
We had a rash of robberies, killings. One car was missing. Western Cab was missing for 3 days. The guy was choked to death by the mic cord. I don't know if any of you guys were here then. George was probably here at the time. They couldn't find the car. People were getting robbed. People were getting beat up. People were getting killed. The union was involved. The companies were involved. The drivers were involved. They were all ranting and raving. They wanted control. They wanted cameras put in the car. This was back in '86, whenever the board ruling was. The final result was the compromise, green light, flashing green light, and the helicopter numbers so Metro can find them. Next round, Yvette Moore. She went to legislation, tried to get cameras put in the cars as a law. We would control them. Cab company started putting cameras in the car, killed that bill right on the spot. So that's what they wanted. They wanted cameras in the car back when they implemented the green light and the 18-inch number. That was a compromise. They got the green light. They didn't get cameras. Later on, they got the cameras. NTA has the green light as a law. I don't know if it's NAC or NRS for all other counties in Nevada. No other people have the helicopter numbers though. But like I said, it's a board ruling back in 86.
I think it was a little earlier than that. It was when we all were involved in the Blue Ribbon Safety Committee meetings, the unions, the companies.
Yeah.
Cheryl Gibbons again for the record. I apologize, Mr. Vice Chairman. That was all done back then because that was the only technology available to us. Partitions were considered. As Member Weekly has said, he has seen in other cities, the drivers and the unions opposed those because they felt it would diminish the interpersonal relationship that they would have with their customers. So, you know, that was one of the ideas that was thrown out almost immediately because the unions, who were very strong at the time with the industry, opposed that on behalf of their drivers. So as the bottom line, it was a lot of back and forth and several meetings, but what all parties agreed that we could do that we thought would make an impact was the green distress light. Metro was brought in. Northwest Vegas police were brought in. Cops were trained on what that meant. And drivers at some at various times at the very beginning, were pulled over by law enforcement because they had accidentally hit the green distress light. It was before the technology allowed us to have that contact us at our home-based facilities. So a driver would be driving around, he had hit it accidentally, all of a sudden he's surrounded, he's pulled out of the car, put on the ground, and it was just by accident. The technology has changed a lot since the early 80s to allow us better control. The cameras that were originally wanted in these blue ribbon safety committees were only going to take snapshots anytime a door opened or closed. And as anyone knows, that you can see on the news a robbery at a 7-Eleven and it clearly shows the perpetrator. It doesn't help catch the perpetrator. It was done simply as a way to discourage a wannabe criminal from wanting to assault a cab driver because they would see that camera. The cameras and the technology that we use now is not only for the protection of the driver, but also to record automobile accidents, be it G-force changes in the vehicle, to where we get video of what the driver sees out the front of the windshield as well as what that interior view is. So they do a lot more than just what the original cameras that were wanted would have offered.
Mario from Deluxe Tax.
I'm sorry?
Just to iterate what JJ was saying, again, the law at that time, from 86 to 2005, because every driver carried $500-600. And that's why during holidays, drivers were getting robbed. Drivers were getting robbed. Today, you go after a driver, you might have $17 in his pocket because of credit cards. And that's why, again, the change of shift from that technology to what we have today is totally different.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the only problem I have with the cameras and the dispatch system, with the experience, if I'm running a cab on a test drive around the mile, and I think I hear the thing, I'm clicking the button, it sets off the distress light. Driver so-and-so cab. Hello, they're calling me. Now, if I was a person in distress, I don't want them calling. I thought they were going to kill the sound on the radio and contact other drivers. I thought that was initially what was going to happen. Because if they're contacting me right there driving, and if I got a guy with a gun in the back of my head.
You're not going to comment, and that's what
Well,
the dispatcher
yeah, but they're
looks at as a
saying
way to
cab-
notify law enforcement.
Cab so-and-so. Well, I'm in cab so-and-so, as the TA card right there says. That's what worries me. I got nothing to do with this, but, if all of a sudden somebody's talking on the radio, asking for a certain driver, that's a worry. That's just a concern. Because all of a sudden somebody's talking at me and, what?
I think we've gone pretty far afield from the public comment section, although this has been an interesting discussion, but it clearly appears that it needs to be addressed at a further workshop. But yeah, this has been very educational, I think, to members, and that's something I remember contemplating a little bit in the old NTA days, but we did not have the technology we have today. There was even discussion of putting those on limousines and that sort of thing. But it's a different time. I'm not trying to sway the conversation here and there, but we're going to further discussion on what was supposed to be the public comment period at the end of the meeting.
Vice Chair, I just want to reiterate that right now there's not a regulation for this.
Okay.
And that I think is probably where the problem started.
So we haven't been discussing any proposed amendment to a regulation. We have been discussing a clarification to the amendments is how it started. And then I guess we drifted into, should we have a regulation on this, which was a little farther afield than we were agenda for. And if that's to come up at a further workshop, that's fine. If it's not, it's not. Are there any other members of the public who have public comments on the regulations or any item of interest for the board? Do we have, is that a member of the public online? No? Okay. There are members of the public online. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
You don't have to have one?